Hey everyone, welcome to the No DQ live recap of AEW Dynamite for February 5th, 2020. I will also be giving my thoughts on NXT. Let's go ahead and get started with the recap of both shows. Before I begin, shout out to the chat room as always for watching live and participating in the discussion. I would also like to thank everyone else for watching on demand. If you enjoy this video, please share it, spread the word, tell a friend, whatever you can do. It would be very much appreciated. All right, we kicked off AEW Dynamite from Huntsville, Alabama. Fun fact here, everybody. This week's edition of AEW took place in the same building that hosted the very first NWA TNA pay-per-view back in 2002. Trivia note, perhaps that could be used on a future edition of Wrestling Trivia Challenge. We had Jon Moxley up against Ortiz from the Inner Circle to kick off the show. Chris Jericho came out to do commentary during the match. We had Moxley going after both guys. He did the tope suicida to Santana. And for the finish of the match, there was a miscommunication. Ortiz bumped into Santana. And then Moxley hit the paradigm shift for the victory. After the match, Santana attacked Moxley. But Moxley came back, hit the paradigm shift, and then he took out Chris Jericho's car keys, you know, that car that Jericho gave Moxley. He took one of the keys and then he stabbed Santana in the eye with the key. An eye for an eye. Since Jericho took out one of Moxley's eyes, Moxley got some payback and took out Santana's eye. And then he escaped through the crowd before the Inner Circle could come out and beat him down. Over on NXT, we had a recap from last week's show, and then we had the Broserweights, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, come out for their victory celebration. They came out on a golf cart with their name, and also the golf cart had some pyro. Cool stuff here. They also had their Dusty Classic Cup in the back of the golf cart. They cut this promo. Pete Dunne was like, this was the last thing he ever thought he was going to do, team up with Matt Riddle of all people. But it is what it is, and they are vowing to win the tag team titles at the upcoming NXT TakeOver Portland pay-per-view. Undisputed Era came out and said, let's not wait until Portland. But then Roderick Strong tried to calm them down, back them off. They made fun of the loser mobile, as they called it. And then Matt Riddle started to make fun of Bobby Fish, saying that, riddle me this. How much fish could Bobby Fish fry if Bobby Fish could fry fish? And then Pete Dunne finished the promo by saying that they are going to smoke the Undisputed Era in Portland. JSpin401 says Bobby Fish sticks. A $1 super chat from a name that will not be mentioned. That person can now be banned. Ken terminated by Google with the $2 super chat. Thank you, Ken. He says, has Matt Riddle always been corny? I laugh my ass off. Matt Riddle was pretty funny here. It was very much something you would expect his character to say. I was amused by it. I liked it. Caleb Jacobs with a $2.08 super chat donation. Caleb Jacobs is a big supporter of a WrestleMania celebrity, a WWE Hall of Famer, Donald Trump, who has been acquitted in the impeachment trial. Caleb Jacobs says he's been acquitted. Here's to 4 more years. You guys agree or disagree with Caleb Jacobs? If you're watching live, debate with him in the chat room. But we're going to move on here, move away from politics. Let's get back to the wrestling talk. Although, on a related note, that congressman who made a reference to wrestling being fake, that was a fun spectacle. And then seeing all these different people respond, including Glenn Jacobs. You can check out some of the responses over on NoDQ.com. Cheap plug. All right, enough of the politics. We're moving back on here to AEW, where we had SCU up against the Best Friends. At one point, all four guys got knocked to the outside. Orange Cassidy decided, well, why not just lay next to these guys? So he got cozy. He laid down. He got a little bit of a tan from the lights. And when we came back from the commercial break, we had the Best Friends do their big hug. However, SCU quickly came back and scored the victory. And Jim Ross even mentioned on commentary, maybe the hug cost them. Could this be some kind of development of a storyline where the Best Friends are not going to be so much best friends after all? We'll have to wait and see. But you would think JR on commentary, he was hinting at something. But of course, this could end up being nothing, of course. We had the Dark Order come out after the match, and they attacked both teams, beat the crap out of all four guys. And then Orange Cassidy got into the ring. Evil Uno offered Cassidy one of the Dark Order masks. However, Orange Cassidy did what Orange Cassidy does. He took his hands, he put his hands in his pockets, and then he got beat up by the Dark Order. Christopher Daniels came out to make the save, and he wanted to fight. He wanted to throw down. He wanted to square up with these guys. He wanted them to put their hair up and square up, but they did not do that because they still want Daniels to join the group, I guess. So they took off, and they did not fight Christopher Daniels. Moving on to NXT, we had Angel Garza versus Isaiah Swerve Scott, which was a pretty solid match here. Scott got a near fall with the house call move, and Garza came back, hit the wing clipper to pick up the victory, fresh off of his appearance on Monday Night Raw. So Angel Garza's momentum in WWE continues. And also on NXT, we had the Undisputed Era backstage. They were looking for Tommaso Ciampa. And there was, for some reason, I'm not sure who this guy was, but there was a guy backstage who was getting a haircut, and they decided to screw up this guy's haircut and totally mess it up. We then had a Mercedes Martinez video package, which led to a match, which I'll get to here in just a second. My man Mike B with a very, very generous $25 super chat. Much appreciated, Mike B. He says, greetings to everyone in the galaxy of No DQ. It's so delightful to see all of you. Aaron is the GOAT of wrestling YouTube. Most others should be obsolete and be sentenced to deletion. Thank you for that, Mike B. I love it, and I really do appreciate your support of the channel. And thank you to everyone for watching and continuing to follow. I really do appreciate everyone that's watching this live stream or watching it on demand when it's not so live. We had back on AEW, well, real quick here, Mike B is my hero, according to Ken Terminated by Google, who left a $2 super chat. Thank you, Ken. He says, Mike B is my hero other than Aaron. Sorry, Rift. Well, Mike B's my hero too. He's a great guy. Mike B, Mike D, Mike G, Big G, everyone. They're all my heroes. Even Virtue. Virtue says, fake is a great word, gets people angry. So we had Taz talking about the 10 lashes. The big segment for this episode of Dynamite was Cody Rhodes getting 10 lashes with a whip or a belt from MJF. And during the show, we had various people talking about this. We had Taz discuss it. And then we had Dr. Britt Baker up against, let me try to pronounce this correctly, I may botch it, Yuka Sakazaki. Hopefully I got that right, or at least close. Yuka was at Double or Nothing and Fyter Fest, and this was her first appearance on Dynamite, I believe. We had Yuka counter the lockjaw submission, and she actually scored the surprise upset victory over Britt Baker, which did surprise me a bit because Britt Baker's getting this big push. However, we did have a big angle after the match. So after the match, Britt Baker grabbed the ring bell and she nailed Yuka from behind with it. And then she put Yuka's mouth into one of the ring ropes and then gave her a curb stomp, which resulted in one of Yuka's teeth falling out, which I believe was given to her by the referee. And she had this blood coming out from her mouth. Really cool visual effect here. I mean, this was brutal. And then Britt put the lockjaw on. I thought this was a great angle. I was upset at first about the loss, but then the post-match beatdown. This was great. This is what they need to do with Britt to take her to the next level. And she's really the only woman on the AEW roster that I feel has real momentum right now. So I liked this a lot. I thought this was really well done, and they're doing something with her. You know, she's like the female Isaac Yanka, but even more vicious. Like, I thought this was a great segment here with her. Over on NXT, we had Dominik Dijakovic, I think I got that name right after all this time, versus Killian Dane. And earlier during the day, they had a confrontation at the Performance Center. We had Dominik picking up the victory with the Feast Your Eyes finisher, which is a torture rack turned into a knee strike. Pretty competitive match between these two. And then it was announced that at NXT TakeOver Portland, it will be Keith Lee, defending the North American title against Dominik Dijakovic. This is going to be a great match. I think that this Portland pay-per-view, I'm jealous of everyone that's going to be there. On paper, I feel like this is one of the strongest NXT cards to date. I mean, this is a hell of a card. This North American title match is going to be great. The women's match, Dakota Kai, Tegan Nox, street fight, that's going to be great. Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, that's going to be great. The tag team title match, Undisputed Era against Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, that's going to be great. And the main event, Tommaso Ciampa versus Adam Cole. All 5 of these matches could be match of the year contenders. I seriously think this is going to be a serious candidate for the best NXT takeover of all time. Like, they're going to have to do a lot to mess this one up. This card on paper, I think, is rock solid. Really, really strong card here for this show. So anyways, Keith Lee came out at the end of this segment, and they had a handshake to set up the match. Then we had Undisputed Era backstage again. They jumped Kushida, beat the crap out of him, and put him into this trash can. Colin Andrews says, what match goes on the pre-show? That I don't know, but I mean, these look like the 5 matches for the main card, and like I could not put together a stronger 5-match card with the talents that they have in NXT. I mean, this is about as tight as you can possibly do. Or as Tuco Salamanca might say, tight, tight, tight. Moving on here, back to AEW. We had the 8-man tag team match, which was crazy. I can't even describe much of what happened in this match. It was nuts. What is the 6th match? Oh, Johnny Gargano versus Finn Balor. How can I forget that one? I will talk about that here in a few minutes. 6 matches. I mean, holy cow. Like, there's no weak link on this show. Like, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a crazy show. But let's get back to AEW for the moment. We had the Elite versus the Lucha Brothers and the Butcher and the Blade. Adam Page came out ahead of the Elite by himself. Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were pretty much working together during the match, and Adam Page was more or less doing his own thing. Eventually, Adam Page got the hot tag, and we had all sorts of craziness. We had super kicks. We had V-triggers. Page did a fallaway slam to the Butcher, and then he did the Shawn Michaels kip-up. However, he landed bad on his knee, and instead of tagging out, he was stubborn. He wanted to keep the match going, and that backfired on him. Pentagon hit the Penta Driver and scored the pinfall victory over Adam Page. So I really like the storyline here. I like that Adam Page is just so prideful. He has to do things his way, and that was his downfall. I like it. Good storytelling here. And after the match, the Elite, they argued with him, and there was some words exchanged in the ring. Now, back to NXT. Now I'll talk about Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor. They had a little face-to-face segment, one of those segments where they're both backstage and the split screen has them talking to each other. Johnny said that Finn Balor needs this match just as much as him, and Finn was like, no, that's not the case. Finn said that he doesn't get paid by the hour, and he's not trying to have a match of the year. He wants to have the match of Johnny's life, and he said that he might just end Johnny's life. And Johnny said he's going to rip out Finn's heart at the pay-per-view, and Finn was like, he doesn't even have a heart, so no can do. This was a great segment between these guys, and yeah, 6 matches for NXT. I'm really looking forward to this card. Like, I don't know how they could possibly do anything less than like an A grade for this show. Like, I would be just blown away if they somehow had one poor match on this show. But anyways, that's enough about the NXT TakeOver Portland card for now. Also on NXT, we had Mercedes Martinez defeating Casey Cantazero or Zero. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name either. It's like half of these names I always struggle to pronounce in NXT and AEW. Whatever happened to just having nice, easy sounding names to pronounce? I get Vince's philosophy of sometimes dropping the first name or the last name and just simplifying things. But anyways, nice showing here for Mercedes, and even Casey got a little bit of offense in and had her moments. You know, she just came back after a hiatus. Back on AEW, we had Kenny Omega in the ring with Tony Schiavone for an interview, but before Omega could really say anything, we had Pac backstage, and he talked about how there was supposed to be a contract signing. And what happened? He wanted to know what's the deal. So for some reason, Riho was standing there, and he got in Riho's face and teased that he might actually do something to her, and that's when Omega finally accepted the match. So I guess if he threatened Riho, that's what crosses the line for Kenny Omega. Pac said that while he is a bastard, he's not a beast, and he would not put his hands on a woman. That's what led to the Beast Nyla Rose coming in and giving Riho a powerbomb through the table. Why Riho just stood here the whole time, I have no idea. But she got powerbombed through the table, and then Nyla said that Riho has been marked, and next week her ass belongs to Nyla Rose. Next week, it's for the women's title, Nyla Rose versus Riho. And I don't think Nyla Rose is the person to go with, but Riho has been so flat as champion, I could see a title change. I'd rather see Britt Baker get the title, but that's just me personally. And Mike B here with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Mike B. He has a question that's off topic here, and he said I could answer before I sign off. So what I'm going to do, Mike B, is I'm going to take your question and paste it here at the end of my notes, and I will get to that here in just a few minutes. All right, let's see where we're at now. Okay, back to NXT. We had Tommaso Ciampa deciding to take it to the Undisputed Era before they could get to him. He attacked them backstage, and the fight ended up in the arena. However, Ciampa got overwhelmed, and that's when Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne made the save. William Regal came out and made a 6-man main event match. However, the brawl continued, and they needed more security to finally break things up. Then we had Jordan Devlin, the new Cruiserweight champion, up against Tyler. And I saw Tyler on the screen, and I'm like, holy shit, they're going to do Jordan Devlin versus Tyler Breeze. And then it was like Tyler Bate, and then it was Tyler Breeze instead. I totally screwed that up. Yeah, Jordan Devlin versus Tyler Breeze, not Bate. I mean, the match was good. It was pretty long. The problem for me is that I knew Tyler Breeze wasn't winning the title, so I'm like, all right, yeah, we get it. Tyler can go. He can wrestle, but does anybody really take him seriously in 2020? So I know some people liked the match. I was kind of not really paying attention to it. I was more focused on AEW. With all due respect to Tyler Breeze, I'm sure he's a great guy, good wrestler and all that stuff, but man, like, I just don't buy into him as a threat anymore. I mean, the main roster did him so dirty, and it's really hard to take him seriously again. I mean, it's almost like, Jinder Mahal type of deal, where it's like he was bottom of the barrel for so long, and all of a sudden, like, I don't even buy him beating Jordan Devlin. I really don't. So anyways, Devlin did pick up the win. Tyler had a few moments where he almost won, but yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys, wasn't really feeling the match. Couldn't get into it. Back on AEW, we had a Darby Allin video package, and there was footage shown of when he got attacked with his own skateboard by Sammy Guevara and the Inner Circle. And then we had Allin take a Jericho and Sammy life-size cutout, cardboard cutout, and then he set that on fire. So Darby Allin is coming for the Inner Circle, and more specifically, Sammy Guevara at some point. Speaking of a match that, I mean, these guys, I'm sure they're nice guys and all, couldn't really get into it again. Kip Sabian versus Joey Janela. AEW is trying to do a storyline with these guys, which I give them credit for, but man, I just can't really get into these guys as characters. Like, they're doing this love triangle storyline, but I still don't really have much invested in either of these guys at this point. So Penelope Ford was out there at ringside. She was getting involved during the match, and then she kissed Sabian, and that's when Janela accidentally elbowed her, knocked her off the apron by accident, and then Sabian rolled up Janela and pulled the tights for good measure to pick up the victory. What's funny is this was going on at the same time as the Devlin match with Breeze, and I was still more invested in the AEW match, but neither one I was all that interested in watching. Like, I was just ready to move on to the next segments. So speaking of that, over on NXT, we had the next segment, which was Bianca Belair coming out, and she wanted Rhea Ripley to come to the ring, but Charlotte Flair came out instead. Charlotte got the big welcome home chants. Then we had Rhea Ripley come out, said she's going to drop the queen at WrestleMania. Bianca Belair stepped in. It said it's going to be her versus Charlotte at WrestleMania. Charlotte told Bianca to back off, saying that this is just a conversation for champions only, and told Bianca to fix her braids. Rhea Ripley took offense to this, and she told Charlotte to not disrespect them. And this led to the two opponents from NXT working together. They dropped Charlotte in the ring, took her down, and then they had their face-off to set up their title match at NXT TakeOver Portland. So pretty good segment here. No official announcement about what Charlotte's doing, but I think it's pretty clear that this is the direction. It's going to be Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley, and I would not be surprised if Charlotte's there in Portland to do an angle, be in the crowd or something, and she'll come out after that match. Back over on AEW, we had Santana backstage, who was wearing an eye patch just like Moxley. He challenged Jon Moxley to a match for next week's show. And then we had the Young Bucks backstage yelling at Adam Page, and then Adam Page just blew them off and started drinking from this pitcher of beer, not just a glass, but an actual pitcher. And then we had a Dustin Rhodes promo to hype up the 10 lashes. Talked about how Cody is a lot tougher than MJF thinks. And before we got our main event segment, AEW announced several matches. Of course, the women's title matches next week. 2 weeks, it's Cody and Wardlow in a steel cage. And in 3 weeks, interestingly enough, they are not saving this for the pay-per-view. We are going to have Kenny Omega versus Pac in a 30-minute Iron Man match. So pretty big match. I believe that will be the go-home show. Actually, maybe not. Maybe that's after. 3 weeks. What's 3 weeks from tonight? Let me look on the calendar here real quick. Let's see. 3 weeks from tonight. Oh, it's right before Revolution. So it is the go-home show for Revolution. It'll be Omega and Pac in a 30-minute Iron Man match. I like that AEW's doing this where they're announcing matches in advance and they're doing one big match for each market and hyping it up. I think it's a good idea, to try and boost up ticket sales. So good for AEW. All right. So we had this main event segment, the 10 lashes. Cody came out with his suit and his robe. He took all of his clothes off. He was shirtless. Not robe. What was he wearing? Like a fur coat or something like that. But anyways, Cody took off his clothes. MJF, before they began the festivities, MJF said he wanted to use Cody's belt instead of his own. Crowd chanted asshole at MJF. He started whipping Cody with the belt. And about 2 lashes in, we had the heels come out to watch at the staging area. And then Arn Anderson came out to give Cody some moral support. The whipping continued. Cody started to get in MJF's face. He was getting very irritated with him. And then we had Dustin Rhodes come out to try and provide some moral support. And actually, Dustin wanted to take the remaining whips. I think we were 5 in. Dustin wanted to take the last 5. And MJF was like, no, it has to be 10 for Cody and Cody only. So the whipping continued. The Young Bucks came out. And then Cody flipped off MJF when there were only 2 whips left. And that's when Wardlow stepped in and wanted to do the final whipping to Cody. Dustin and everyone else, they were upset about this, saying this was not part of the rules. But Wardlow didn't care. He whipped Cody with the belt. And Cody fell down. The other whips, Cody stood up. He took the blow, but this one knocked him to the ground. He started shaking the ropes, and then he collapsed. MJF was like, no match. It's done. He could not do the 10 lashes. Brandy Rhodes finally came out, and she encouraged Cody to get up and take the final lash. So I don't know if this means Brandy's storyline is dropped or not. We'll see if that's the case. Who knows? Awesome Kong has been written out of storylines for those of you that saw AEW Dark. After the 10th lash, the babyfaces got in the ring, and then MJF came in for a low blow, a final shot to Cody, gave him a low blow, and then ran away through the crowd, and that was the end of AEW Dynamite. I thought this was a really well done segment, very unique. We haven't really seen a segment like this in a very long time from any promotion. So I liked it because it was something different, and I applaud taking chances and doing something that hasn't been done before or hasn't been done in a very long time. I mean, I'm sure there have been segments in wrestling where somebody gets whipped to be humiliated. I mean, it was very old school. We probably saw something like this back in the territory days in the 70s and maybe even in the 80s. But something like this hasn't been done in a long time, to my knowledge. So I liked it a lot. It went on pretty long, but these types of segments tend to do good ratings. So we'll see. We'll see if it captivated and resonated with audiences or not. But overall, I really liked it, and I thought this was great build for the pay-per-view match. It was a bit predictable. I figured, Cody's gonna take the 10 lashes, but the way they did it, I thought was really well done, well executed, and they're doing an excellent job of building up the pay-per-view match. So great work by AEW. And Grant Midnight Black Peoples with a $3 super chat says, Cody Rhodes is great and his promos are great too. Well, he is a Rhodes. He's got that blood. And Cody has really come into his own since leaving WWE. Excuse me. All right, so before I finish here with NXT, let's go ahead and do the letter grade for AEW. Really solid show. I enjoyed it a lot. I liked the Britt Baker angle. I liked the main event angle. 8-man tag team match was great. Good stuff here from AEW overall. There were a few weak points. Didn't care too much for the Kip Sabian, Joey Janela match, but at least AEW's trying to do something with those guys. Dark Order stuff was actually better, maybe the best Dark Order segment to date. So overall, A-. Really good show here from AEW. I enjoyed it pretty much from start to finish. Ked Terminated by Google with a $5 super chat. And I'll get to that here in 1 second. Mike B says A for both shows. JSpin41 says A for NXT and AEW a B. Jeremy Dorset, AEW gets an A+, and NXT also gets an A+. And Shady Snake gives AEW an A++. Eldrick Simmons gives AEW an A. So it's looking like you guys pretty much agree with AEW that it was very up to par. Detective Mocha gives an A for AEW, and Christopher Mace gives AEW an A-, as does Keith Johnson. Ken Terminated by Google. So he asked me, and I'm going to get to your question here after I'm, again, copying the question, and I will put it into my notes here because I do want to talk about the end of NXT first. So for NXT, we had this 6-man match, Undisputed Era, Adam Cole along with Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly up against Tommaso Ciampa, Pete Dunne, and Matt Riddle. The babyfaces jumped Undisputed Era before the match could even begin. Pretty solid main event here. Ciampa got the hot tag. Then Strong came in to cause the DQ. And then they beat the crap out of Ciampa. They got yellow spray paint and spray painted an X on Ciampa's back, NWO style. Then Cole called Ciampa a joke, said he's a nobody. And then we had the lights go out, we had the 3 numbers on the screen, and the 3 numbers turned into Velveteen Dream's logo. Then we cut to the ring. Velveteen Dream was on the top rope, and he just went to town on the Undisputed Era, beat the crap out of all of them. Great return for Dream. Very happy to see him back. He's pretty much been out of action since AEW started. So we'll see if the Dream could be a difference maker in the numbers. And that was NXT and AEW this week. Both shows, as always, fun to watch. And a great ending to NXT this week. Both shows ended very strongly. And let's see here. The Game is on 100 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. He says, I knew when Undisputed Era versus Riddle, Dunn, and Ciampa was happening. I knew the 2-5-20 person will show up at the ending. I knew it was Velveteen Dream. Well, we were all speculating on that, thinking that it would be Dream, and it was in fact him. Happy to see him back in action. All right, so now let's get to Mike B's super chat question. But real quick here, Keith Johnson with the $2 super chat says, Aaron, any silver lining with the Dark Order? Depends on who the Exalted One is. Will it be Matt Hardy? Will it be Brody Lee, a.k.a. Luke Harper? So there is a way to salvage the storyline. If they bring in somebody strong to represent the group, I think that they can do something with this. All right, and speaking of the Hardys, Mike B says, do you think the WWE will let the Hardys go to AEW or possibly re-sign them? I mean, I could see WWE trying to keep Matt Hardy from going to AEW, but Matt wants to do his thing, and I don't think it's about money for him. Same thing with Moxley. I think Matt Hardy, he's made a lot of money. He's big money Matt after all. Matt wants to do some creative stuff while he still can. And AEW, I think, would be I think it's pretty obvious. AEW will be, if he decides to go there, a better creative outlet for him to do his character and do stuff that's what Matt Hardy can bring to the table. And only he can. But yeah, I'm sure WWE will try to keep him, and we'll see what happens. And then the other question here from Ken, asking me if I saw the match between Thunder Rosa and Allison Kay. Those two have superb chemistry. Let me try that again. NWA's women division is greater than AEW's women division by 10 miles, according to Ken. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty solid. I enjoyed the match. I did watch NWA Power this week. I do like Thunder Rosa a lot. I think that she has some real potential to be a star in either WWE or AEW. I think one of those promotions will be in her future. It's just a matter of time. And like I said, NWA Power has been a pretty solid show. I mean, I've enjoyed the promos, and it's been a nice alternative to WWE and AEW for that matter. All right, so on that note, I will go ahead and wrap up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications to get updates, and give this video a like. Give it a thumbs up. Tune in tomorrow night, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 Pacific. No DQ review, live, 100% live. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Going to be a fun show with Team No DQ. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you all next time.